Hey guys, welcome back. Reese Ben here at Pursuing Nail Arts. In the video, you're going to be seeing a little bit of my time visiting the museum in Dresden.
Check it out now.
Alright guys, so this first section here is going to be considered the main hall, in which they have many armors on display, including weapons. When you enter, on the right side, there is a wall of these great swords. These are mostly dated for the 16th century, and have always been a favorite of mine. First harness we get to see is the 16th century one. This one appears to have some reinforcement plates added onto it. And if you look closely, you can see the gauntlets are different. So the one on his left hand is simpler in design. So here you have some lance tips. What's interesting about this far left one is that it's threaded to where it can be swapped out. And here we have another harness on display. This one's really interesting because of the detail with the etching and the gilding. Here's a close-up of some of the detail of the harness. These harnesses are pretty neat. Most of these had some sort of etching or engraving on them, and also gilding. So in the middle here, you see two displays showing knights on horseback. So this lance on the left here was very interesting. It has a series of spikes through them. I'm not familiar with what that is. If you guys know what it is, be sure to comment down below and let us know. Here's that same display, just on the other side. This display here shows another harness, but also a series of van plates used for lances. And a very nice saddle. Here's a really neat display showing 4 harnesses, all gilded and acid etched. So you can see up close some of the designs with the etching. They've since been faded over time, but these would have been polished, so you can imagine the effect it would have had. Close here is some of the detail of the gauntlet. So this one here is a really cool display. This is showcasing a form of tournament fighting that happened at the barrier. So objective was to break as many spears and swords as you could against your opponent's armor. So we actually had a really great lecture done at the symposium from Dr. Alfred Geibig, who's a curator of arms and armor at the Vista Coburg Museum that I got to experience last year. And during the lecture, he actually showcased a helmet surviving from this period, which showed lots of nicks and scratches from the swords being hit on his left side, which would have been swung from a right-hander. This display was pretty neat. You get to see all the bits of the harness, including the reinforcement plates, the horse armor, even the saddle. So it would have been a complete set. And you just swap it out for whatever task you'd want to do. Something that set the 16th century armors apart from their earlier counterparts. Here's another display showing the armor. I really like the detail of the engraving here on the chevron. So moving on, we get to the other displays here. These will be full harnesses with accompanying horse armor. And you can see they're done in the same style. Really fancy stuff here. Here we have some armor for children. Including one for a small horse. And some of the details in these armors are just absolutely insane. Really, really impressive work. here's a view from the rear of the hall looking back. So here we come across some mail. If I recall correctly, these are from the 17th century. So I was really impressed with how small the rings were, but also the decorative clasps that hold it together. Next room we came across this harness. It was heavily engraved. So now we get into the armory. So here we have a series of halberds. This is a very fine example of a halberd, including a very decorative helmet. So here, I was really impressed by the way they displayed these. Very well organized part of the museum. So the first harness we get to see through here is going to be one of the 15th century, German. And here below you'll see a Pavis shield, which still has the paint survive. And here is an example of another Pavis, accompanied by some halberds. And this Pavis at the bottom is depicting St. George slaying the dragon. So here I have a couple more Pavises, accompanied with some axes. And from looking at the description, the axe is of German origin and the hammer is of Swiss origin. So there is some close-up detail of the axes. And if you notice the gilding detail on the axe. Here's a crossbow with a English windlass. They noted that here that the bolts were iron tipped and could supposedly penetrate armor and shields. Here's a nice display showing a kettle hat, an axe, and a coat of mail, followed by a very well preserved Pavis. This sword was very interesting. The pommel appears to be some sort of crystal or glass. Probably not suited for war, but more for ceremonial purposes. Here we see another German harness. This one's dated for the 15th century. Here we have a dagger that was very heavily hand carved. Including the scabbards. So here we have a sword with a very large pommel. And this is apparently a gift. Known as the Winterstetten sword, 16th century. So these are the Ronald daggers, each pointed with 3 edges of the blade. and were ideal for foot combat, especially for penetrating beneath mail. And here we have another view of the hall here. So I really loved how they displayed the weapons and armor in this particular section. So here we have a field armor that's dated for the first half of the 16th century. So what was really cool about this museum was a lot of the pieces on display here actually belong to real people.
This armor belonged to Duke Augustus of Saxony and was dated for 1540.
Here we have some swords and a hunting knife. So here's another crossbow, but what's interesting is you see these type of bolts known as the Kronenbolzen. These are used for shooting competitions, in which the crossbowmen shot not at live birds, but at wooden figures in the shape of a bird. So more examples of some swords and a dagger dated for the 1500s, the 16th century.
So this armor belonged to Duke Heinrich the Pious and is exhibited along with a Frisian chain, with which he was to have been hanged with. Heinrich had been representing his father, Duke Albrecht the Bold, as governor of Friesland under King Maximilian I. During a revolt, the Frisians imprisoned Heinrich, and his father came and freed him. Later, Heinrich is said to have kept the chain in his bedchamber.
Here we have the Maximilian harness, that is typically seen in Germany during the 16th century. So here we have some Swiss daggers.
Of course not. So, what I've been told is that
So in this section you see lots of very decorated swords, mostly dating from the 16th century. Here we have some lance-connect swords. What was neat about these swords is that they belong to documentable people. They belong to Duke George and Heinrich of Saxony. There was a portrait there later on the wall. You can see the same sword was painted in the portrait with it. Here we have another example of some very unique armor for a horse. While at this section, I came across this really cool statue. And judging by the armor, it looks to be something around the 16th century.
Moving on, we came across this gigantic greatsword. This is something that's dated for 16th century, and it was a gift from a Danish king. My friend Maria stood next to it to give you an idea of just how large this thing is.
So moving on, we get to the next room, and there's some more displays covering the mail. Similar to the ones we saw earlier, but these ones had different styles of clasps. So here we have a couple shields. So kind of 16th century. Out of favor as a plate armor advanced. So both the wooden shields are painted to an imitation antique style, and the scene painted on them is showing that of the Roman war against Carthage. The shield on the right is a shield with a retractable blade and two sword catchers. And here I show the inside of them so you can get an idea of how you grip it. Here's a very interesting, what they call the saber. So I really like the detail of what they did with the blade. It was very unique. Here's another very ornate sword. Notice the detail on the scabbard. And the bottom here of the shape. Here we have some more armor. This one here, you can sort of make out the bluing. It's a bit faded now, but when it was first done up, it probably would have been a very bright blue. And here's an example of some executioner swords. Here's another field armor dated for about 1554. And I like the little details and the scales, the closer that they're, every alternating one is gilded.
Alright guys, that concludes the video. We thank you very much for watching as always. I had a really great time visiting the museum in Dresden. I actually tried to visit that last year, but the day we were going is actually closed, so we didn't get the opportunity. So that day we got to drive out there, and it was really cool. So hope you guys really enjoyed the content. I tried to get as much detail footage as I could, but you can spend like all day there, and we just got to see the armor. So there's lots of really cool stuff there, and definitely recommend you guys to check it out. So if you're in the area. So special thanks to Arne Coates for getting us out there and seeing the museum. And looking forward to seeing many more in the future. So thanks to our Patreon supporters for helping the channel out. That allowed me to get out there and film that kind of content for you guys. And we're really glad to do these sort of videos. So if you guys like what we're doing and want to see us improve the channel, that's the best way to do so. And if you guys like these sort of videos, let us know down in the comments below. And we'll be sure to do more of these in the future. So, as always, thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next video. Take care.